I am born out of conflict. What I mean to say is that there is nothing in me or around me that is simple or solved or easy. And in the 21 years of my life, I have become the perfect puzzle solver. I'm organized, anxious, and I have this irrational urge to figure everything out. Sometimes way before it needs to be figured out. Until recently, the conflict in me was like the last burning torch I had while I was running away from the basement of my ideals. But turns out, it was the only light I needed to find my way. Life has really confused me. It has made me fail and fall. It has made me believe that I am in a race with everybody I have fought so hard to not become. Life has let me eat myself whole, but has never let me look back at who I was. Life has made me act against myself, do a disservice to myself. In fact, I have betrayed myself so many times I can write a book about it. And I will. In that book, I will realize that this world is mine and nobody else is going to be able to experience it, no matter how hard I try. So I've decided to not solve anybody else's puzzles anymore. And even though my own world is not simple or solved or easy, I know that there is nothing in my life that is not worth it. Hi, my name is Foram, and the piece you just heard is a little preamble to what my talk is going to be about. Almost 4 years ago, I co-founded an art collective called Spill Poetry. And ever since then, my entire life has revolved around it. But before I go too further, let me go a little bit back and tell you how all of this started. Back in 2016, the poetry community in Mumbai was unfortunately only designed for those who could regularly afford to pay to perform. So basically, an artist had to work hard at creating their art, but also pay someone to show it to the world. My co-founder and I didn't think this was right. So we started our journey then. We started with one open mic, which was funded by our pocket monies, and one simple motive in mind, which was to make art completely free of cost for the artist. We wanted to make a place where people could really feel like they belonged. And as two young artists who founded a monthly open mic, we didn't put a lot of thought into how this would turn out. All we knew is that we believed in the art and the artists, and we wanted to make sure that artists don't grow out of privilege, but because of the talent and hard work that they put in. Within the year of 2017, we grew. And how? We started a YouTube channel. We toured all across the country. We poured our hearts out to literal complete strangers. And most important of all, we brought so many unique people on our journey with us. Having co-founded Spill at 17, I have had the luck to meet and grow with some of the best people and artists from around the country. And in that process, I've realized that as a human, how important it is for us to belong. Let me give you a simple example. Margaret Mead, who was an anthropologist, was asked by her student many years ago what she thought was the first sign of civilization. Now, the student expected her to talk about things like clay pots or religious artifacts or tools for hunting, but instead, Med talked about a 15,000-year fractured femur that had healed. This might not seem like much to us right now, but in those days, occupations were hunting and gathering, and if someone was injured, the rest would most likely have to abandon them. Without modern medicine, a fractured femur could take 6 weeks to heal. And if at that time a fractured femur had healed, it meant that the person with the injury had people around them. People who took care of them, who tended to their injury, fed and defended them until it healed. One mere fractured femur was complete evidence that someone somewhere had belonged to a community that helped them survive even when they couldn't on their own. Communities always give us a sense of direction. And while my co-founder and I built a community of lakhs of people, I personally made a lot of changes to my life. I was studying in Pune the year we started Spill, and I had to constantly move back and forth for meetings or shoots or events. And as a person who doesn't like traveling at all, it became really hectic for me. So I took a decision to leave a college I had worked so hard to get into and come back to Bombay. Once I came back to Bombay, I also tried to schedule my days in a way that I could give maximum time and effort to building Spill as a brand and a community. But in all of this, I got so busy making an organization that was home to thousands of people that I completely forgot what it felt like to belong there myself. Suddenly, building this community came with the extra cost of forgetting my own needs. I think this tends to happen to us if we stay in one place for too long. For me, personally, that dissonance started about a year ago and it hardly ever stopped. The entire time I was worried that I had been too careless. If I had let life throw things at me and accept them without question, or walked in the path that life had created without paving my own. I was so confused. Had I actually let life dictate how I lived my present without ever having the chance to explore any other option? My mind was riddled with a puzzle that was bigger and tougher than I had ever seen in my life. I felt like I was succumbing to the rationality that I should stay in a place only because I have reached there in the first place. I felt like this community I was creating had become bigger than me, more important than me, and I just would not belong there anymore. After so many months of feeling desolate with my own art, a friend helped put things into perspective. It happened last December. I was in Delhi for an event and I spent the past weekend surrounded by some beautiful art and even better artists than usually. That would make me a really, really happy person. But it wasn't the case this time. As I was heading to the airport, I felt this certain uneasiness in me and I had to get it out. So I figured I'd call one of my closest friends and I knew he'd bring me back to my senses. So I called him up. I told him, listen, I don't think this poetry is working out for me anymore. I think I should try something new. I don't feel like I belong here. Maybe I should just start distancing myself. And I was saying all this because I was so afraid of being pushed out of a place I had called home for the past 4 years. Within 2 minutes of me ranting in this conversation, he shut me up and said, Foram, no. The thing is, you've been giving and giving for way too long without ever thinking about what exactly you're giving away. He said, what if the things you're giving away are exactly the things that you need? He continued to say that this wasn't even about being an artist anymore. He said, you have lost your happiness. And the only natural reaction to that is to try and find it again. And if in the process you have to rediscover your agency, then that's okay. But make sure you keep it with yourself once you find it. And I started thinking, what was so important about my agency? So the thing is, in whatever we do, all of us have something or the other at stake. Now, this stake can be our talent, our personality, and maybe in my case, it was the time and effort that I had put in. But this stake is our agency. It is what defines us and relates to us in that space. So, what was my agency? Was it about poetry? Was it about the time and effort? Was it about being an artist? Was it about running this art collective? And it was accumulation of all these things. It was a simple act of realizing that my life was going to be so much more than the cluster of experiences I had accumulated. And that was it. Belongingness had become about taking my agency back. And I'm not just telling my story here. Most of us have felt left out in some situation or the other. It's so important to understand that there are times where only we can resolve this conflict. We forget that we're giving away our agency so easily to people and things that have got nothing to do with our satisfaction. Let's look at it this way. The longer you don't believe in yourself, the more time it takes for you to start to. And if you have lost your agency, you have to get it back as fast as you can. Ever since the day at the airport, I have been working towards figuring out where exactly I belonged. And I know it sounds like some technical self-actualization level stuff, and sometimes it was. I had to make really hard decisions about my future and my career, and some of those included breaking the notions I had about how my life would turn out. But in the past few months, I've also realized something that has given me the mental calm I had been craving for so long. I was not failing, or falling for that matter. I was just growing. The past 4 years have given me only one kind of experience, in one area, one field, with only a certain kind of people, and somehow that automatically led me to believe that I couldn't succeed anywhere else. But now my mind had finally begun exploring its capabilities and its interests, because it was not happy being where it was. I was moving out of my comfort zone step by step. I gave my spoken word career a bit of rest and started studying things like screenwriting and design. Some things I was really good at, and some things were really not meant for me at all. But at least I gave myself the opportunity to let myself see what exactly the world had in store for me. My mind had been begging for more. It was my responsibility to satisfy that craving. And honestly, I feel it is every person's responsibility to themselves. To let your mind be free and let it roam wherever it wants, trusting it enough that it will surely reach a place that is best for you. Feeling like you don't belong in one place doesn't mean that you don't belong at all. Life is not a man on a stranded island. Belongingness is not about what you have done or what you will do, but about where your satisfaction leads you. Because you see, to get somewhere, you have to make your sacrifices count for something. You have to know that to pick up something new, you might have to put down something old, even if it's for a little while. I had been wondering all this time if I wasn't meant to be a poet. But what if I wasn't meant to be just a poet? Nobody is just one thing. Yeah, sure, I was a poet, but I could be so many other things. Like a painter who was told by her 9th grade art teacher that she didn't paint well enough. Or a dancer who only danced for herself. Or a girl who constantly gave up hobbies just to pick up new ones. And that would be okay. Because I am in my own world, no matter the rise and fall of belief I have in myself. I have convinced myself that I am going to be so much more than what I have done or what I will do. And now I finally know that I belong, even on the days I feel like I don't.